soft summer breeze makes me think of my baby. I left down in New Orleans. I left down in New Orleans. Magnolia, you sweet thing, you drive me mad. I got to get back to you, baby. You're the best I ever had. With all my wasted time spent on loving you. Help me, baby, with this Quavo gold. Such a shame to waste it life. Help me, baby, with this Quavo gold. Such a shame to waste it life. Squeeze up, loving you.
Shannon McNally, it's so great to have you back on the show. The last time we had you, Shannon, you were on the heels at what was one of the best albums of that year, the Whalen Sessions. And Shannon, by the way, you have a new album now, Live at D's, already climbing up the charts. But how are you, Shannon?
I'm well. I'm very good. Closing the piano so that I can lean on it.
I love it. I love it, Shannon.
How you doing?
Doing great. Love to have you back on the show, Shannon. And that live performance you did, Wasted Time, on that album. I mean, it was really, really good. And you have, like, I was listening to it, and you have almost like a musical chemistry with your band. Adam, we talked about, and Brady Blade, that is almost magical, Shannon. And I was wondering, because I've seen it myself, how do you find that, Shannon?
Yeah.
Like, because it's almost like a dance, isn't it? Like, what is it you're looking for when you're putting together a band? Like, do you have to go through a lot of people to find, like, the right sound?
Very good question. Well, of course, I've been doing this a long time, so I have a very thick little black book. But yes, the guys that I play with, the people that I play with, it's mostly guys. I do have some women musicians that play with me as well. But yes, in my mind, when you become a band, when you're putting on a show and there's other people on stage, you are a band. And so in my mind, that triggers very, very deep-rooted memories of bands like the Grateful Dead and then the Allman Brothers and Penny and the Heartbreakers and Los Lobos, bands. And of course, they have the luxury of being a band of brothers, and they start together and they go at it together and they win and lose together, and they share the money and they do all the things. When you're a solo artist like myself, I've never had the luxury of one band, but I do know a lot of different people, and at this point I have a lot of though I have a lot of bands I've in different places. I go back to the same guys over and over because I do have chemistry with them. But when I'm booking a band, I'm absolutely thinking about the chemistry of the band as the same as if I was booking a session, to play the music. I thrive in a situation where all of the instruments are cueing one another and everybody really listens. I've got a band of listeners. That's what every band of mine is. They're all listeners. They're all amazing players that come from real band situations. So I can kind of change them out as need be by everybody's availability, but still have it feel like a band. That's always my absolute highest goal.
So what is the Shannon audition process? Let's say you're going to start a new band for a new album, for a new era, for a new chapter. They play well. It's Nashville, and they come recommended as skill players. But what is the audition process like?
Oh gosh, there's no audition. I don't audition, folks. I know I sort of have a sense of who they are, and at this point, I go back to my favorites. when I do, basically it's do I like them as people? That's number one.
Sure.
Do I like being in their presence? And if you're going to be on the road with somebody, can you tolerate them first thing in the morning?
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one. Other than that, like you said, everybody's great. So, if I'm doing something very focused, like the Waylon record, I sort of start with one person. Like for the Waylon Jennings record, I started with King Von.
Mm-hmm.
And followed his lead on the rest of it. So now I'm back in the studio and making records again, but sort of song by song.
Okay.
And so I'm just, at this point, I am booking sessions. One, I'm playing a lot more of the instruments and I'm building things a little bit more organically. I think I'm following more of the Tom Waits model in the studio these days. Just, if I can bang on it, I'll bang on it. If I can't bang on it, I'll get somebody else to bang on it who bangs on it better than me.
I love it. I
hope that answered your question.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's just wonderful to talk to you. There's so much wisdom in between the lines with you. But yeah, I love, Shannon, that you have built, your career. It's such a powerful career, the one you built, Shannon. A lot of it you've managed and you've done yourself. The more in the music industry that I am, the more I respect people like you that take their career by their own horns, push back at the A&R people at what they want to mold you and that kind of thing. Where did this tenacity come from, Shannon? Like, was it from your mother? Like,
I think
that's a word.
It's DNA, it's DNA, and it's a lot of making decisions just in the moment based on the information that I have. It's not always a plan. Early on, I was signed right away to a major label, and I had a wonderful record collection, but I didn't know anything about major records at all. But I'm a deeply spiritual person, and I have a deep emotion to the music that I make, and pretty much everything I do. I grew up on Long Island, and I grew up Irish Catholic, but all my friends were Jewish because I went to public school, and all my Irish friends and Italian friends went to Catholic school. And where I lived on Long Island, everybody was Jewish. Right. And so you learn from the cultural centers that you're in, just about life and maneuvering and you're the bits of wisdom that you get from people, and sometimes that's cultural. But I've just been making it up as I go forever. And when I come across, I basically joined the music business. I came into the music business at the beginning of its decline. So it's been like this.
Perfect timing. Perfect, right on time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been like learning how to swim on the Titanic, Yeah. So I just, my rule of thumb is if they say no, wait a little while and ask again.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm in it for the long haul, not because I'm tenacious, but because it's what I do and my life, and I'm not going to be told no by some arbitrary person just because they think they know something. And
you make it sound so easy, and if you're like an impressionable artist that's hungry in these rooms with these big wigs on Music Row, it's hard to say no, Shannon. Like that's great. I love that.
Well, I think you also need to know what you're doing. Like if you, and I don't mean like you need to have experience before you have experience. I mean, what do you want to do? What kind of artist do you want to do? You follow in the footsteps of the artist that you want to do, and then to some degree, there's a acceptance of the process. So, if you want to be Taylor Swift, as a young songwriter, as a 15-year-old songwriter, went industry standard. She did everything they told her to do. The Grammys got behind her. She was good. She was, obviously she's beautiful and she could write a song, and so she had that going for her, and she had personality. Yeah. And she did what they but she did what they told her to do until she was in a position of just being an adult and a grown woman, and then and with enough money and power to say, I don't think so. No, if you want to look at the Dixie Chicks come from a real instrumental background. They're all just champion competitive fiddle players, and they come through the bluegrass tradition of contests, and they and they also they were surrounded by true artists. So but it's not easy, and it's never easy to stand up for yourself. It's just when David Hidalgo from Los Lobos a long time ago told me, the secret to success was use heavy strings and use the tummy test. And if something doesn't feel right, it's not right. It's not right. If you want to be like Bob Dylan, well, then go out with your acoustic guitar and read the New York Library and get a library card and acoustic guitar and go play 10,000 gigs. If it depends on who you want to be like. Do you want to be Van Halen? Then sit with your guitar in your room, for 10 years, from 7 to, and play the guitar and be like and be a true musician. You want to play jazz? What do you want to do? You have to look around at the people that you're inspired by and say, well, what did they do? And then you have to do a little bit of that. And then none of that counts anymore because we're in a whole new era. But simultaneously, nothing's that new. It's always been, it's always a roller coaster. You have to find some way that you enjoy it, and you have to find a money source.
But I was reading the other day, Shannon, that songs have changed, like the structure, because people listen to songs on Spotify like a shorter attention span, kids, right? So that the chorus is coming in quicker, like in the first 35 seconds. And I was thinking to myself, man, if I was, a true artist like Shannon McNally or something, this would drive me nuts, right? Because we grew up with, with the progression, the big payoff in the song. When you read about this stuff, doesn't it drive you a little mad a little bit?
Well, I don't know how different anything is. When I was coming up in LA on the songwriter circuit in Los Angeles in the early 2000s, the phrase was, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus." You had 30 seconds to get to the chorus back then. I mean, Albert Perdley hits were 2.5 minutes long, maybe 2 minutes long. They're short songs. Willie Nelson could write a hit song in 8 lines, and in 12 lines, and 4 of those are the chorus. So there's a lot of math, and if you're a musician, it's not all going to be Queen. It's not all going to be a rock opera. But the idea is that you learn how, social media has been interesting for me in this regard, because I didn't like it when it first started. And I was a little late to the game because I didn't like it. But I've come to appreciate it, and I've come to appreciate, short bits. It's all about being creative. It's always been about being creative. You can figure out a 30-second. You can figure out how to, if Mark Twain could figure out, how to say it in 10 words or less. So, it's not a real concept. You're speaking in parables most of the time.
Totally.
And, so it's all available to you. It just depends on you. But these days you have to use both sides of your brain more than ever before. You can't just, and it's unfortunate because it cuts into the creative process, and it really is aggravating to me because, you're as an artist, if you're primarily an artist, and you really have a brain that works that way, you're the only one in the room who can entertain 1,000 people for 90 minutes with an acoustic guitar, but you got to learn all the skills. But you have to learn all these other skills. You got to spend all this time learning all this other crap. Pardon my French. But, I have a lot of faith in young people and in kids, and they can multitask, and they always figure it out. And rock and roll was invented by children, and it was discovered by children. And girls in particular, it's like you got a room full of little girls and they like it. That's what you call a hit. It worked for the Beatles the same way it works for Taylor Swift.
Sure.
And they figure it out, and so it comes in waves. You just got to think like an immortal, you got to think like an immortal. If you want to be immortal, you got to think like one. You just,
I love that.
And then say what you want to say.
God, Shannon, I could talk to you for 17 hours. I love this. But yeah, you mentioned kids and you mentioned the youth, and Shannon, looking back at your wonderful career, you spent so much of it on the road with the band, and there's this thing I've always thought, Shannon, guys that are in rock bands, it is kind of the way it is, but it's harder to be a mom. And hold your family together, Shannon. And, dudes go on the road, they go to their wives and they're like, all right, see you in 3 weeks, honey. And in a way you kind of, if I was a man, this would be so much fucking easier kind of thing. Like, but to have a full-time career as a musician like you had, Shannon, and care about your family and grow with your family the way you have and your daughter, it's like an extra wrinkle, right? And you've done such a great job at it.
Well, thank you. I hope so. It is all possible. You need the right people around you. It helps to start young. And the secret is you do have to put your children first. And
do you give it like a vote? Do you sit with them and do you say, hey, comment?
Well, yeah. To some degree, she's 15 now, so she's fairly on autopilot. But you do have to put your children's health and mental health first. That's the big thing. And you have to have the right people around you. And it helps to have a partner who is, supportive. And it's hard, but I do think that particularly when kids are little, they're very malleable, and you can do a lot of things with them. The sex, drugs, and rock and roll part, you can't get high, and you can't, you don't, you have to sort of act right. The big change for me when I had my daughter was that I stopped staying in motels. I stopped staying in any room that opened to a street or to a parking lot. Like,
sure.
Okay, no more of that. I'm only going to, no more of that. I'm only going to stay in, so you make changes. I'm only going to stay in hotels. I'm only going to stay on the second floor. And it has to have a central office, and it has to have a pool and a restaurant. So when when we pull in with, and I took a nanny, and you pull into the hotel, and so it's like a little world. They're good. You just have to change. There's things that you do have to change, but men have their things too. A lot of men they miss out, and a lot on their kids' lives, and a lot of marriages fall apart. These dudes are on the road, and
right.
So it works. It's not easy to juggle all of it depending on your nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Shannon, I don't want to hold the rest of your day. I know you got a lot going on, but Live at D's by Shannon McNally, wonderful album. It's out now. Let me leave you with this, Shannon. One of the few times I saw you perform this year, lucky to see you perform, was at a Tina Turner tribute, in which you closed you closed the evening with an incredible performance of What's Love Got to Do with It. And just leave us with this. Like, you embody Tina songs, and is it fun for you when you embody these giants and like all the weight of what they mean, and you personify it as an artist?
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God, stepping into Tina Turner's shoes, even pretend for 6 or 10 minutes is like it's a personality. It's like a personality lift,
right?
So, and it's big, to me. I don't like the word cover. I really don't. I think that you can become so many things, and so to have the absolute privilege to become Tina Turner for 10 minutes to the best of my ability with everything I know about her. I mean, God, it's it's so inspiring that it's sort of then when you come back to being yourself, you get to bring some of that with you, and it elevates you.
Right.
You're just moving along through all of it.
Amazing. Amazing. Shannon, well, you said it all for today. You are amazing. So grateful for your time, for your art, and for always being the best. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Bye.